Today we are going to discuss two topics. The first is not really related at all to the second, but I want to talk about it nonetheless. It's more of a message. Let's say, Dear David Sharat, this is directly for you, okay? Okay? As somebody that has engaged with your mother on Twitter. Do you remember those pictures I asked her to put on Twitter? Yeah. Good times. Now the job of a parent is to raise a child. Mother and father, or just the father, or just the mother, or mother, father, and so on until you get to whatever conclusion you want. They are not your friend. They are your parent. Some can of course develop close bonds that resemble friendship, and there is nothing inherently wrong with that. We also know that during tough times, parents are always there for their child, unless the parent was never there for the child to begin with, in which case then I'm not including you in this particular train of thought. My apologies. But I had a good relationship with my mother. Much like David Sharat's long-suffering mother. She trusts you to do something. She watched you descend to madness on Twitter, went so far as to distance herself. And what do you do to thank her in return for the generosity and kindness of being your mother, giving you a roof over your head, while you work a full-time job, and make your quirky little videos that have slowly shown just how utterly insane you have become? It is quite sad. You trash her house, you don't look after the animals, you don't clean up the mess, you don't feed the pets. In fact, you do the very opposite of a responsible adult, while having a very much full-time job. That does not mean you stop being an adult when you clock off. And I keenly await to see if your mother follows through with the threats she makes in the Facebook posts and comments of kicking you out, because there's only so much a parent can tolerate before they have to put their foot down when a leech is doing wrong. An apology, by the way, would be a good start, David. I know you don't know how to do that. Might I recommend chocolates, flowers, hands and knees, perhaps spring cleaning the house before the spring has even begun. Failing that, good luck finding a house sit with people who are willing to tolerate your insanity. The big point that I have taken a few minutes to get to is that while it is the job of the parent to raise you, you, now that you are an adult, must be able to stand on your own 2 feet. Sometimes you do it because you make the conscientious choice to do so. Other times, and unlike other times, and this is highly likely, because you have been kicked out because you have overstayed a welcome that would not have been worn had you adhered to the rules of your mother's home. It's a great way of ensuring we integrate well within society as a whole if we can follow simple rules in a house. Then again, based on how you keep your bedroom, I wouldn't want to live in a house with you. I don't think many would. Many could ask themselves whether this is a failing of the mother for giving you leeway. Love is love. It's unconditional with a parent and a child. So I'm willing to push it to the side considering who she's having to put up with. Anyway, the subject of today's video comes from the New York Post. Well, the second subject, where a university has said that a student's "fuck Nazi" sign wasn't inclusive, which I think is quite amusing and coincidental really, since the person I was talking about prior to this topic loves to fight those crypto-fascists and neo-Nazis. He just loves that. She? I can't remember if you're doing it to fuck with the alt-right or if you've just figured, fuck it. I've got more chance of getting laid now. Doesn't matter. Administrators at the University of Massachusetts, Amherst, asked a student to yank her "fuck Nazi" sign because the message wasn't inclusive according to a new report. Nicole Parsons hung the pointed memo, which read, in full, "Fuck Nazis, you are not welcome here," in the window of her dorm, which is a direct response to swastikas that were scrawled all over a Happy Hanukkah sign in early December. Based on this logic, surely then the university would have also had the Happy Hanukkah sign removed, since that only celebrated a Jewish holiday. That's not very inclusive now, is it? If you're going to be consistent, that's what you should do. The image you now see on the screen is the supposedly offensive remark that had to be removed. This comes courtesy of BuzzFeed News, which is in fact mentioned in the New York Post article, and something I thought would be quite interesting to point out is that while the New York Post removed the word or blanked the word fuck, BuzzFeed are okay with it. So we're going to continue with this on the BuzzFeed article because at least they have the balls to put profanity in. Nicole Parsons, a junior at the University of Massachusetts, told BuzzFeed News on Sunday that she decided to put the sign up after a swastika was drawn over the Happy Hanukkah sign on a resident assistant's door the first week of December. She's quoted as saying, "I thought maybe if I hang the sign up, Maybe the person who drew the swastika will see it and see someone condemning their actions even if the administration doesn't do it. This is a bit of a mistake on Nicole's part, because there are a list of incidents, hate crimes that have happened since the semester began on the 16th of September. Many of them are in fact anti-Semitic. The first from the 19th of September, racist and anti-Semitic slurs reported by students. On the 28th of September, anti-Semitic graffiti found in a library book. On the 13th of November, an anti-Semitic, homophobic and transphobic message was found on a resident's dorm room floor. On the 28th of November, a swastika carved into floor signage. 29th of November, a swastika drawn on the pavement. On the 5th of November, accompanied by the 5 gold rings, there was a swastika carved into a stone wall in the men's bathroom, and then obviously on the same day, a swastika drawn on the Hanukkah sign affixed to a resident assistant's door. It's interesting to note that of the 19 hate crimes reported since the semester began, 7 of them were anti-Semitic, which is 36.8% of all hate crimes happening on this campus in Massachusetts are anti-Semitic, which is the largest group affected by a hate crime on that campus, based on what this says. And I say maybe race could actually top that, but unfortunately race has been separated. You've got African Americans referenced in some remarks, and then you have other instances reported as just racism, which means I don't know whether it was against African Americans or if it's just a generalized hate crime. So anti-Semitism is the biggest problem your campus faces, which is quite amusing, since your current campus is running a campaign called Hate Has No Home at UMass. Reject Hatred, Stand United, which is the University of Massachusetts Amherst's commitment to ensuring a safe and welcoming living, learning environment for every member of our community. Well, apparently the Jews aren't so welcome. You should probably do something about that, because I don't know if it's the white nationalists that also feature in the list, or if it's the extreme left who like to discreetly be anti-Semitic, or frame the far right by planting swastikas. As there are no indications of how these investigations turned out, other than them simply being reported as hate crimes, I may as well put it out there. I'd be a shit skeptic if I didn't consider it. Okay, I'm a shit skeptic anyway, I thought I'd just say it. Interesting to note on this campaign, there are 9 different subjects that this campaign is trying to deal with. You have Erase the Hate, which is a national movement against hate in America, to create awareness, and then this one, which is quite important, and I think actually something more needs to be done to encourage. Dialogue, something many skeptics pushed for with the anti-SJWs and SJWs, anti-feminists and feminists arguing all the time. Something that really changed the ballgame was when people started to discuss things. I would definitely say the streams Lacey Green did with Blair White. Okay, I can't think of any others. But she did other streams with other people. Oh, she played Quiplash with Jeff Holiday, that was funny. She streamed Bearing, didn't she? Blair White streamed with Onision. These kind of streams are really important in getting more people to talk. Hell, Onision has recently claimed to have unblocked everyone. I wonder how long that'll last. Although I'm almost certain I was blocked by him at one point. I used to feature screenshots of people who had blocked me in my videos. I'm almost certain I had one of him. The next one is Hate on College Campuses, where the SPLC, lol, which tracks extremists, right, no one believes that, notes that outside extremist groups target college campuses because we embrace diversity, tolerance, and social justice. I think your parameters for what an extremist group are need to be adjusted, because a lot of it is being bred on the campus itself by those that fight in the name of social justice. Not all, of course. There are some who fight for social justice that are perfectly acceptable and behave admirably. Unfortunately, like any movement, there are toxic limbs. Cough Antifa. Cough. The next one is Fighting Anti-Semitism and Hate, where you're not doing a very good job at the moment, with 36% being anti-Semitic hate crimes so far. Understanding what a hate crime is. This is important. Let's see if they get it right. Hateful and offensive speech, or symbols, context and of course subjective, in the opposite order, although repugnant, are not necessarily violations of civil rights laws or crimes. You're quite right. You have that fantastic free speech thing. In fact, the FBI, which tracks all hate crimes, is careful to protect freedom of expression and civil liberties. Well, why are you concerned about that? College campuses don't do that. In fact, college campuses do everything they can to absolutely fuck the student, without consent. You'd think Title IX would protect the student in that instant. But no, democracy doesn't exist on your campuses, remember? The last one we're going to cover quickly, responding to hate. Review the hate response protocol to better understand how the university responds. Seek out local resources for advocacy and support, as well as national outlets such as blah 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 blah. Their response protocol is meh. They have the automated response, internal review, leadership engagement, engage with those who are impacted, track bias incidents, and the supposed action steps, which would include the obvious sanctions, exterminatus, and legal actionable misconduct nonsense. Back to the BuzzFeed article though, because Nicole received a letter, which is the letter that caused this stir, where it says, "Hello Nicole, my name is Eddie Papazzoni, and I'm one of the resident directors at UMass Amherst, and am currently the RD on call for East Side. I've tried to contact you on your phone around blah, but the number listed was for your home phone. With that being said, I'm emailing you today in regards to a phone call I received concerning a sign that is placed in your window. From this conversation, it appears to be that the sign it mentioned can be paraphrased as Nazis are not welcome here. You're missing the word fuck. Though the sign is permitted under freedom of speech, I would also like to discuss the impact on the community that this sign has had. There are some in the community who have expressed that the sign should be taken down as it has created mixed emotions in the community on how to proceed, issues of inclusion, and the ability to be active members of their community. While the residents' education cannot force you or your roommate to take the sign down, I'm asking that you or your roommate take the sign down so that all students can be a part of an inclusive residential experience, as well as having a respectful environment to be a part of here on our campus." So she hasn't actually been told to remove it by anyone who would actually make her do it. She's well within her right to do so. But this has spawned a number of articles about the fact she's been asked politely, and this is quite polite, I have to admit, to remove a sign to protect the greater good, perceived greater good of inclusivity. But these hate crimes really has you wondering how about that whole inclusivity. Some people disagree with you in at least 19 incidents so far. I personally don't think the sign is as controversial as they say it is. I think it's a simple sign. There are people that this young lady believed to be Nazis. They are not, because of what a Nazi actually is. It is a terrible way of scapegoating those currently by comparing them to those in the past who committed truly heinous acts. In that context, I can understand why the sign needs to be removed, because you're not calling them by their correct name. Perhaps saying, "I just don't like you," people who have a political leaning slightly further to the right than where I currently sit, because to me, I consider you to be Nazis. This is a view I hold myself. My name is Nicole. Don't at me. How about that? That's, inclusive. Unsurprisingly, after a little pressure applied to Nicole Parsons, this is Nicole Parsons by the way, she removed the sign, so that her room wasn't given a bad name of sorts. She has been quoted as saying, "I was in absolute shock. This email tells me the university cares more about the feelings of Nazis than the safety of their students." She's precious. The university did eventually put out a small statement where it said that it rejected Nazis, but it was sensitive to the use of the profanity, which is understandable because what is and is not a Nazi in current year? Well, let's be honest. Those that you call Nazi that typically fall into the bracket of what some call Nazi aren't actually Nazis, because Nazis don't exist anymore. And don't use that neo-Nazi fob off, it's not a thing. Far-right extremism, let's just call it that. That sounds a lot more sensible than to go, "I don't like you because you're a Nazi." The statement, by the way, says, "A poorly worded email from residents life staff asking students to take down the sign does not reflect the values of the campus and it should not have been sent. The university respects the students' right to display the sign and it may remain up." I would argue that the person who sent the email was actually doing their job right. When concerns are raised, they have to act, and they have to be seen to act, otherwise it leads to people starting unnecessary arguments on the other side. You could have used this, by the way, for good optics, but unfortunately you have bent over, and while accepting that it is entirely free expression while not actually mentioning it at the same time, you've ignored the comments that were made in the original email sent by Eddie Papazzoni. And I do believe that while you consider it to have been poorly written or poorly worded, he was trying to be very delicate about how to handle extremism. Saying fuck Nazis while all very virtuous. Who you are determining to be a Nazi is where the issue arises. Maybe I've missed a point. Who knows? It's my day off today. I'm going to enjoy it. So, I hope everyone has a lovely Friday and weekend, of course. And thank you all for listening.